Okay, nach. Here we go. No homework, obviously. Okay, so quick review of the three raos, even though we just talked about this in English. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So the first three raos are the type that comes about from the nature of physical matter, which is inherently subject to destruction, blah blah blah. And you can't want to be physical and not have this stuff because that's what physical means. And it's necessary, but it's also rare because most things in the universe function properly for most of the time, and the instances of not are rare. Second kind is the kind of ra that people inflict on each other. It originates in ignorance, which is, and it's relatively rare again in terms of like most people are not harming each other in any given way in any given area, right? Most parents are not abusive. Most parents are not like wrathful. Most parents are, most farmers like farm well and they don't farm like in a destructive way. So okay, fine. The third one is the type of rod people inflict on themselves. This one's very common, right? It originates in ignorance and it's the most prevalent form. And Rambam theorized it comes from people seeking stuff they don't need, right? Or more than they need. Okay.
Referring to they kind of overlap based on the discussion we were having before.
Yeah.
We were saying that like the third type of raw causes like a lot of this.
Yes. Third type of raw causes the second type, and the second type can lead to situations where people are more prone to the third type. Like, let's say, like the fact that the education system is bad, that's number 2, but then it produces people who are more ignorant, which is number 3. The reason why he divides it is because I could be a complete like chacham, and that's not going to stop you from mugging me and like killing me if you're like if you want to engage in interpersonal raw, so like in terms of where it comes from, like it comes from without, and that's like a different category than coming from within.
Okay.
But yeah, causally then they're interwoven.
It never.
Oh, okay, so let me send it again. Oh, you're right, it didn't. Why not? Scheduled. It said, oh, you know why? Because I accidentally put 11:38 p.m.
Oh,
So that'll do it.
Your midterm due and you have to submit it.
All
You
right,
want to submit
I
it too
just sent
early.
it out.
So I wish I could just schedule it.
You can't. I mean, why can't you schedule
I
it?
don't know how to do that.
Oh, do you use
We're
Gmail?
talking about how we never in our life heard of scheduling an email.
Oh, yeah. Gmail does it. Yeah.
Oh.
Let me show you.
I mean, not that I'm music, because it keeps me out.
You just go. Yeah. So you send an email. You go to email, and then oops, sorry, let me hide this. And then you click on the right thing here, schedule send.
Oh, cool.
And then yeah.
I was wondering what that arrow was for.
Yeah. So it's very Google's got your back.
Yeah.
Google takes care of you. Okay. And it also knows everything.
I thought it was on my phone, that's why. So I don't know if that's
Yeah,
a
if you look
feature.
up
Oh, yeah.
Google / add or something, add settings.
Add preferences. Yeah.
Setting, yeah, whatever. It will
What's this
tell you
not
everything
working?
that Google knows about you.
Mhm.
It's really
It'll
scary.
tell you your age.
I thought I was like 30 years
They'll
old.
tell you
so I'm
your
kind of
fake age,
offended.
if you're married, single, your interests. Yeah.
Hey, what do I look up?
Just add preferences. Yours might not be on though. Look up.
Okay, don't do it now. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, now we need, in order to talk about today, we need to just review Aristotle's 4 causes, which we did earlier in the year. So there is the material cause, what it's made out of; formal cause, what it's made into; efficient cause, what makes it into that thing; and the final cause, what it is made for. And we use the example of the shoe. Material cause is leather. Formal cause is the shape or the shoeness of it. The efficient cause is the shoemaker or the shoe machine. And then the final cause is to provide comfort and protection for feet. And which cause are we talking about today? Final cause. The final cause of the universe means the purpose of the universe. Okay. And I'm telling you this because he uses the word final cause. Okay. So before we do, so this is purpose of the universe, more Nebuchim 3:13. Before we do the Rambam, what answers have you heard for this question? I want to just chart them down so we can be sure to address them once we see what the Rambam says. Purpose of the universe, or purpose of creation, whichever you prefer.
To be God's servant.
To be God's servants.
Chesed. Hashem.
Chesed. Oh wait, sorry. Say Hashem's chesed or our chesed?
No, Chesed Hashem.
Okay, chesed Hashem. Okay, chesed Hashem.
To perfect your midos.
To perfect your midos.
Can't know.
Can't know.
There is no purpose.
There is no purpose.
Fulfill our
Fulfill our. I think the word people usually use is tafkid.
Oh yeah.
Tafkid, right?
I was just asking my mom, what's the word? What was it for?
Yeah.
To spread God's name.
To spread.
But even
Yeah.
but like, I
God's
feel like
name.
that's not even answers to the question because it's like there needs to be a creation in the
Yeah.
first place in order to do this.
Yeah, you're right. This is more of a question of what's our purpose in life,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you're right. So I'm gonna delete that, even though it's true, because those
A
are
lot
for
of them
different questions.
also like to perfect your meter.
Yeah, all of them.
Like to live like God.
To be
That's
God's
also-
servant.
Well, okay. Well, actually, hold on. No, I'm not gonna delete it, and I'll tell you why. Because if all of these are based on a premise that the the purpose of the universe is to allow us to do these goals, so meaning if you said that the purpose of the universe is to allow us or enable us to perfect our mitos, then you were saying that perfecting our mitos is the purpose of the universe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep those in mind as we read the Rambam, and let me pass out the Rambam here. So 1, 2, 3,
None of these
4.
are the answers, right?
I'm not saying. We'll have to find out.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is Adina, you can pass those 2 on. Okay.
I hope it's not
Aw.
I
bet
bet
way
you
back
are.
in
That's
sex
the word.
sorting.
It's gonna be like a whole-
Okay, so Rambam begins by saying, who wants to start?
I can say.
Go ahead.
It's not for fun, that needs to-
Yes.
Intelligent persons are. Oh wait, did I? Skip?
Yeah, no, you started other way.
Intelligent persons are much perplexed when they inquire into the purpose of the creation. I will now show how absurd this question
Yeah.
is.
Okay. So that's how the Rambam is starting. Okay. So he's sorry. Oops. That's not supposed to say 3 rows. That's supposed to say purpose of the universe, but I'm not going to change all the slides. Okay. So say summary of Rambam, purpose of the universe. So he's right away. No, not holding anything back. The question is absurd. Okay. So obviously he has to explain. Okay. Now I mentioned in the top of the page here, I edited out a lot of this. And the reason why I edited it out is a lot of it is responding to the question according to Aristotle. And anyone know or remember what is the difference between Aristotle's view of the universe and our view of the universe? The main difference.
He says there's no hashgacha.
That is one of the differences, correct. But in terms of the question of the creation of the universe, what is the difference? Nope.
God's
Yes.
knowledge of
Oh.
time.
Aristotle does not hold that the universe was created. He holds that the universe is eternal.
Uh,
Okay, so the Rambam spends a lot of time in this chapter talking about how if you held that the universe is eternal,
What
then
is eternal then?
what was it?
What is eternal? Like how does that work? Like
So the mushal that I don't know if this mushal came from Aristotle or if I just heard it being explained, is he still holds that God is the cause of the universe, but he holds that God didn't do an act of creation. And the mushal is, hold on, we're going to do a little physical demonstration. Can you turn off the lights for 1 second?
oh, thanks, Rach.
Right, so here we have so I heard this as the wall and the shadow, right? So let's say you have the wall and you have the shadow, okay? So is the shadow caused by the wall?
No.
Yeah.
it's caused
Yes.
by the light, yeah.
Well, okay, fine, it's caused by light also, right? But it's caused by the wall. And what's explain why it is caused, like how, what,
Because it's the shadow of the wall.
yeah, it's the shadow of the wall, right? And if you took the wall away, you would have no shadow, right? But did the wall do an act of creating the shadow? No, it's like a natural result of it being there. So Aristotle held that God is like the wall and the universe is like the shadow of God, which means that the universe is dependent on God and is caused by him, but not in an act of creation. And he held that, and Aristotle held that just like God has always existed, so too the universe always existed.
But can God exist without the universe?
God can exist without the universe in the same way that you can have a wall without a shadow if there's like no light source or something, Thank you for turning off the light. I just realized how creepy this looks on the video.
I know.
It's like because it's like my face is like up here. Yeah. Okay. So that's what Aristotle held, and I omitted it because I don't think we need to go into that right now, and especially because now, like, at least scientists hold by the Big Bang that the universe did have a beginning point. So fine. Okay. Please continue reading.
An agent that acts with intention must have a certain ulterior purpose for that which it performs. This is evident, and no philosophical proof is required.
Yeah. Do we understand that?
Yeah.
An agent that acts with intention. What would be an example of an agent that acts without intention? Give me a real world example. Like a human, obviously, is someone who acts with intention.
Maybe.
Okay, a baby could act without intention. What about a non? Give me an example of a non.
Wind?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Wind. Right. Just something in nature. Say fire burns stuff without intention. Okay. So you can't ask the question, what is the, like, what was the fire's purpose in burning? Like that's not a thing. Only with a being with intention can you say what was the purpose of the being acting. Okay. Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
It is likewise evident that that which is produced with intention has passed over from non-existence to existence.
Stop there for 1 second. Right. So if you produce something, let's say like you make a cake. So what does it mean to make a cake? Is that there used to not be a cake and now there is a cake. So the cake didn't exist and now it exists. Okay. I mean, the ingredients existed obviously, but the cake didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
It is further evident and generally agreed upon that the being which is absolute existence, which has never been and will never be without existence, is not in need of an agent. We have explained this before. The question, what is the purpose thereof, cannot be asked about anything which is not the product of an agent. Therefore, we cannot ask, what is the purpose of the existence of God? He has not been created.
Okay, pause there for 1 second. So this is one that we get a lot of questions about this from ninth graders in Shulchan, right? Is like who created God, right? Or like what is the purpose of God's existence? They usually don't ask what is the purpose of God's existence. But according to the Rambam, why can't you say what is the purpose of God's existence?
There was no doesn't exist.
Well, he does exist.
Nothing created his existence.
Nothing created his existence, right? His existence did not come into being after not being in being, So you can't say what. So I think it's easier if we think about it from the more commonly asked question. You can't say who created God because you can only ask that about what kind of thing.
Something which has been created.
Something which has been created. So if it has not been created, you can't ask why was it created. Okay. So similarly, you can't ask. So this is kind of another reason I want to show you the 4 causes is so you can't ask what is the efficient cause of God, meaning what brought him to existence, because he always existed. So he has no efficient cause. And you also can't ask what is the final cause of God, what is his purpose, because you can only ask that about something that was brought into existence with intention, and God was not brought into existence by some other being with some intention. Okay, we're good? Okay, go ahead.
According to these propositions, it is clear that the purpose is sought for everything produced intentionally by an intelligent cause. That is to say, a final cause, or a purpose, must exist for everything that owes its existence to an intelligent being. But for that which is without a beginning, a final cause need not be sought, as has been stated by us.
Okay, so when he said that this is an absurd question, that sounded like a blanket statement, but now he's saying that there are things you can ask the question about in terms of what is the purpose of it, and then there are things that you cannot ask the question about. So in your own words, what is he saying would need to be there in order to be able to ask the question, what is the purpose?
It has to have been created
Good.
by an intelligent cause.
Yeah, okay, good. Exactly, right?
Oh,
Yeah, okay, good. So the question can be asked of things which were produced by an intelligent agent. Okay, produced in time, meaning as opposed to like eternally caused. Okay, and it cannot be asked of things which were not produced in time or were not produced by an intelligent agent. And just to summarize the part that we're skipping over, according to Aristotle, why can't you say what's the purpose of the universe?
Because it was never created.
Because it was never created. It was always in existence. And according to Aristotle, you can't say what's the purpose of the universe, just like you can't say what's the purpose of God. Okay. Now, seemingly, we could say what is the purpose of the universe because
It's an intelligent agent. God.
yeah, because we hold that God is an intelligent agent and that the universe was created. So what's the wrong going to say about why it's
Not technically an intelligent agent because it's not a person.
Yes, that's true. But I guess so that is also true, right? And that's
Was
going
it
to be part of the.
produced in time, I think?
And it wasn't produced in time in the sense that time didn't exist and time itself is its creation. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. All right, both are gonna be relevant. Yeah, more what Leah said than what Elisha said. Okay, now this next part gets complicated. Anyone want to take over? If not, then you're stuck, Ayala. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Those who accept our theory that the whole universe has been created from nothing, some hold that the inquiry after the purpose of the creation is necessary, and assume that the universe was only created for the sake of man's existence, that he might serve God. Everything that is done, they believe, is done for man's sake. Even the celestial spheres move only for his benefit, in order that his wants might be supplied. The literal meaning of some passages in the book of prophets greatly supports this idea, as is stated, he formed it, i.e. the earth, to be inhabited. If my covenant of the day and night were not, etc. Okay, and spread them out as a tent to dwell in. If the sphere existed for the sake of man, all the more so must this be the case with all other living beings and the planet.
Okay, so to summarize, what view is he saying here?
That the world was created for man.
That the world was created for man, right? So and he's saying some people hold this, that the world was created for man, and specifically so that man can serve God. Was this the first answer that we?
I said.
Yeah, okay, right. It's to serve God, right? And he's saying that he can see why you can get this from Tanakh, okay, because there are psukim that seem to say that, all right? But he's going to disagree with it. Okay, this is what they say, I say. Okay, go ahead, Leah.
On examining this opinion, as intelligent persons ought to examine all different opinions, we shall discover the errors it includes.
Yeah, that's kind of throwing shade at the people who hold it by like, oh, they're clearly not examining it, you know. Okay, but go ahead.
Those who hold this, namely that the existence of man is the purpose of the whole creation, may be asked whether God could have created man without those previous creations, or whether man could have only come into existence after the creation of all other things.
All right, pause there for 1 second. Okay, so this is the Rambam interrogating these people, right? Rambam says, okay, you say that the universe exists for the purpose of man. So now, what question is he saying in your own words here?
What about everything else in the universe?
What about everything else in the universe? Yeah, so all the other stuff in the universe, right? All the planets, all the meteorites, all of the animals and plants and stuff, are all those necessary for man? Or could God have created, man without all of those things? And those are the only two possibilities according to this opinion, right? Because if I'm saying that the whole universe exists for man, then either these things are necessary for man or they're not necessary for man.
Right.
I don't think there's any in-between ground, right?
But you have to say that they are necessary for man.
Okay, right. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. If they answer in affirmative that man could have been created, even if, for instance, the heavens did not exist, they will be asked, what is the purpose of all of these things, since they do not exist for their own sake, but for the sake of something that could exist without.
So that's saying what Ayala was saying, which is that, so if you say, for example, like God didn't need to create all these other galaxies,
Right.
so then you'll say, well, then what is their purpose, right? God could have created everything just for man, and he didn't need these things. Okay, go on.
Even if the universe existed for man's sake and man existed for the purpose of serving God, as has been mentioned, the question remains, what is the purpose of serving God? He, God, does not become more perfect if all his creatures serve him and comprehend him as far as possible, nor would he lose anything if nothing existed beside him. It might perhaps be replied that the service of God is not intended for God's perfection. It is intended for our own perfection. Is it good for us?
It is good for us.
It is good for us.
Yeah.
It is good for us. It makes us perfect. But then the question might be repeated. What is the purpose of our perfection?
Yeah. So in terms of like these questions, I'm sure you've gone through thoughts like this on your own. If you say, well, the purpose of A is B. Well, what's the purpose of B? Well, it's C. Well, what's the purpose of C? It's D. So that's the thing. The universe exists for man. Okay. Okay, fine. So if you say that the universe exists for man, then what is the purpose of man's existence? Oh, it's to perfect himself. Well, what's the purpose of us perfecting ourselves? Okay.
Is this like circular reasoning?
It's not. Well, it hasn't been circular yet, because circular would be
Full circle.
like, yeah, circular would be like the purpose of man perfecting himself is so that the universe is perfect. That would be circular, because then you say, what's the purpose of the universe? For man. What's the purpose of man for the universe?
Got it.
Yeah, but what this is pointing to is the fact that you're going to have to. Where's this line of reasoning going to lead before we read on? Like, what's it going to have to lead to?
What?
Just think it through. Like, what is it going to have to lead to?
why does the Torah make us perfect?
No, because Torah makes us perfect, but
Why
he's saying
do
no.
we need any perfection?
Still, why was the universe created for man?
Okay, still, but again, let's go through it. The universe was created for man to perfect himself. Why do we perfect ourselves? For some other reason.
Why was the universe created for man?
To perfect himself.
But no man, so unless man is perfect, the universe is gonna go away.
Or like, why does man? What is the purpose of man? I mean,
So here's what I'm trying to get at here, I think, is that you will need to get down to something that you can't ask what is the purpose of that thing. Because otherwise what happens?
it doesn't answer the question.
It doesn't answer the question and it goes all the way on. Have you ever heard the expression or the story about turtles all the way down?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've heard different versions of the story, but the version I heard was the philosopher Bertrand Russell was giving a lecture or something like that. He was a scientist, mathematician, philosopher, and like he would mentioned about like how the Earth was suspended in space, and like this woman rose her hand and was like silly, universe is not suspended in space. And he's like, well, ma'am, how's the Earth being held up? And she says, it's on the back of a turtle. And he said, well, how's the turtle being held up? And she said, silly, it's turtles all the way down. And you see that that's a ridiculous thing because that's not how stacking works. Like you can only be held up if there's something underneath it. So same thing with asking about the purpose of something. You're going to have to get down to something that you can't say what is the purpose of that, because if you say what is the purpose of that, then you'll just ask, well, and if you answer what is the purpose of that, it's something else, then you'll just ask that again. It's like a logical thing. And I think this is what you were sensing when you said, is it circular? Meaning it's not circular reasoning, but the problem is that this question threatens to have never-ending reasoning, and then you're just never going to answer the question.
Are you saying that everything in life, like if I ask the purpose of this paper, eventually I'm going to get down to something that has no purpose?
Eventually you'll have to get, I'll say it slightly differently. You're going to have to get down to something that is its own purpose. Okay. And I'm not saying this from a Jewish perspective. I'm saying this, that anyone who answers this question is going to have to get down to something that is its own purpose. And I'll give you an example, let's say in a secular, like non-Jewish answers, right? So let's say you say to an atheist, whatever, what is the purpose of going to school? So give me an answer. To learn. What is the purpose of learning?
To be educated.
Okay, to be educated, that's the same as learning, but yeah. What's the purpose of being educated?
To get a job.
To get a job. What's the purpose of getting a job?
Make money.
To make money. What's the purpose of money?
To live. Well,
So, okay, to feed your family. What's the purpose of feeding your family?
to be
So you don't die.
So you don't die. What's the purpose of not dying?
to live.
That's just the definition of not dying. So let's say you'll eventually have to come down to something like to have pleasure, or to enjoy yourself, or to find happiness, or to like be great. And you'll have to come down to something that you cannot justify in terms of another purpose, because otherwise the question is just absurd. And that's what I'm saying is like everyone, whether they realize it or not, everyone in the world, whether they realize it or not, has what let's call that there's values as means, and then there's values as ends, and then there's like what we'll call a supreme value. Okay, so values as means is you go to school so that you can get a job. Okay, and if you could get a job without going to school, then you wouldn't need to go to school, right? And then there's going to be something that is like the end of everything that you can't say in order to do X, Y, Z. Like happiness is, I think when we talked about this in Koheles, I think I quoted to you Aristotle saying that you cannot complete the sentence, I want to be happy because blank. Think about it for a second. I want to be happy because blank.
Wait, why can't you complete it?
Yeah, why can't you complete that sentence?
Because there's just like a whole chain of reasons why.
Because
Happiness is like a thing itself.
because that's what we mean by happiness, right? Happiness is like the state that everything else is striving for. Exactly. I want to be happy, right? Like if I said, like, I want to be happy so that blank, well, why do you need blank? Oh, so I can be happy. Like happiness is the word that we use for like the thing that everything else is striving for.
But then there's like really no purposes in the world.
Well, what I'm saying is that there has to be something that the ultimate answer is, I'm doing this because it is intrinsically valuable. And there can be many candidates for that. That's kind of what we're searching for.
But it's intrinsically valuable. Why? Like you could always
No,
say,
then that would not be an intrinsic value. Intrinsic means not because of something else. If you're explaining it, usually when we ask about something's value, we justify it in terms of an underlying value system, that this food is good because it's healthy, or it's food good because it's tasty. If it's an intrinsic value, then you can't say it's good because.
Is that completely subjective?
yeah, like can you claim anything's good?
So that's where this question is then. This is what we have to try to find out of how do you choose between one, yeah, I guess, is it subjective or is there a right answer to that question? In other words, how do we know that we found the right intrinsic thing? Maybe I could say like the purpose of life is to drink this water bottle, and that's just intrinsically good, right? Like you can just say anything, you know?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get you to realize, like between the lines here, is the Rambam, again, is not speaking in a, he's obviously talking about a religious example, like, because he's talking about religious people. But I'm saying that this question, no matter who you talk to about this question in life, they have to answer this question, which is you can give me like, I do A because of B, B because of C, C because of D. You're going to have to get down to something that you maintain is intrinsically good. And now the question has shifted, which is how do we know that that is the correct answer? Or is there a correct answer?
Right.
So it's a different kind of question. The essential point is to realize that there has to be an endpoint in order to not be the turtles all the way down woman.
Why can't you do turtles all the way down one again?
Because it is not actually answering the question. It's not an answer.
Because then you wouldn't live. You wouldn't have a reason.
You're asking in the motivation sense? Yeah.
Like, why can't I just say like I don't need to know, like it's just turtles all the way down, whatever.
So then what is motivating you then?
Right.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right, yeah. I have heard someone actually make the argument, well, what if the motivation is irrational? But, you know, meaning like, what if there is no actual, like, what if the psyche is just hardwired to like seek Yisron and you can't really satisfy it?
Then
But-
why wouldn't everyone just kill themselves?
Yeah, exactly, right. And also, it doesn't really answer the philosophical question. Like, he's asking this as a philosophical question, not a psychological question. I was using the psychological example because it's easier to relate to. But he's saying, like, what should be the purpose of a universe that is created by an intelligent being? And like, if you're working with those premises, which, again, he's not proving that God created the universe, right? That's the starting point of this conversation. If you want to know how God created the universe, ask Rabbi Fader or ask Torah. You know, like, but he's working with that premise here. Yeah. Okay. So let's see what he answers. Who wants to read the answer?
Ooh,
You want to read it?
I guess I can.
Okay, go ahead.
We must, in continuing the inquiry as to the purpose of the creation, at last arrive at the answer. It was the will of God or his wisdom to create it. And this is the correct answer.
Now, if that disappoints you, then you got to let the Rambam explain himself. Okay. So, but that verbally, that is the right answer. And he gives you two options, which always fascinates me. It is the will of God or it is his wisdom to create it. Okay. So hold that in your mind, but he's going to explain this a little bit more. Yeah. Go ahead.
The wise men in Israel have, therefore, introduced in our prayers for an Iyov, the Day of Atonement, the following passage. You have set man apart from the beginning, and you considered him worthy to stand before you. For who can tell you what to do? And if he is righteous, what can he give you?
Yeah, now stop there for 1 second here. So I think it's amazing that they put this in Ne'ilah, okay, which is, again, the culminating tefillah of Yom Kippurim. And it is talking to the people who think the purpose of the universe is to serve God, right? And he's saying, if you serve God, what are you doing for him? You're not doing anything, right? So it's like addressing that mentality. And now here's how the Rambam summarizes what they're saying. Go ahead. They have
thus clearly stated that it was not a final cause, i.e. a purpose that determined the existence of all things, but only his will. This being the case, we who believe in the creation must admit that God could have created the universe in a different manner as regards the causes and effects contained in it, and this would lead to the absurd conclusion that everything except man existed without any purpose, as the principal object, man, could have been brought into existence without the rest of creation.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to summarize this because we just read through a lot. Okay. So I think, and we might need to tweak this. Okay. I think this is the Rambam's argument. Okay. If the universe was created for man, which is what people say, could he have accomplished this without everything else in existence, or were they necessary?
Necessary.
Right. Okay. So necessary. So if they weren't necessary, we'll start with that. If they weren't necessary, but they exist for man, how do they benefit him? And if everything exists for man so that he can worship God, what is the purpose of this? It's not for God's benefit. he's not filling out every side of the argument. I just want to put this on here. We'll talk about it. And if you say for our perfection, then what's the purpose of that? Ultimately, the answer is God's will or God's wisdom.
So there's no answer. So.
We're not done yet. Okay. And this is also different than saying there's no answer.
Wait,
Okay.
actually,
Yeah.
it says man could have been brought into existence without the rest of creation. So
Yeah, right. Isn't that saying that if they weren't necessary?
I'm asking you, is that the Rambam saying that men could have existed without the rest?
That's him articulating what he thinks the other people will say.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So in other words, and again, there's a deeper level that we can analyze this, which I want to make sure that we focus on the main point. But like you can say, why does the Rambam have to like say all this and not go into full reasoning? But the way I see it is the point I was emphasizing, which is that no matter what you say, like the universe exists so man can perfect himself. Why does he perfect himself? You're going to have to get down to something which is you can't say why for. And he's saying that is the will of God or the wisdom of God.
Is it because you don't understand God?
Oh, so that's going to be the next step. Okay. But he's saying that the Torah's answer is that, and I'm going to state this in a different way. That whenever you use this is a related point. Whenever you use the word good, then good also is a value, and values exist for other things. So let's say that's a good drink. Okay, so good in terms of what? So is it good in terms of taste, cost, health, right? So when the Torah says God created light and it was good, what value system is the Torah using according to this?
Beneficial to man?
No, God's will.
Exactly. So that and that's the split, is that the Rambam was addressing people who said, oh, maybe when the Torah says it's good, it's because it's for man. And the Rambam is saying, no, just existing because it's in line with God's will, that's the standard of goodness. And you can't ask what makes God's will good, because that's trying to look for another value system. And you would just ask, well, what makes that good? You're going to have to get down to something which is the primary thing.
How do you prove that God has a will?
I know, that's what I was going to say. It's
Yeah.
not physical.
Right. So that's where Rambam addressed that earlier, and that's not addressed here. And he'll elaborate on it, I think, in the next paragraph. Let's read the next paragraph and see. Oh, sorry. Hold on just a second. Oops. Oh no, I did not finish putting this on the PowerPoint. So we're gonna have to just switch to the. Hold on. Let me just get I sent it to Adina though, so we should be able to get it there. Don't save. Adina. Adina. And source sheet and this. And share screen. Where are we at now? I consider, yeah. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I consider, therefore, the following opinion is most correct according to the teachings of the Torah, and best in accordance with the result of philosophy, namely that the universe does not exist for man's sake, but that each being exists for its own sake, and not because of some other thing. Thus we believe in the creation, and yet need not inquire what purpose is served by each species of the existing things, because we assume that God created all parts of the universe by his will, for some for their own sake, and some for the sake of other beings that include their own purpose in themselves. In the same manner as it was the will of God that man should exist, so it was his will that the heavens with their stars should exist, that there should be angels, and each of these beings is itself the purpose of its own existence. When anything can only exist provided some other thing has previously existed, God has caused the latter to precede it, as, for example, sensation precedes comprehension.
Yeah. So he's saying that there's basically two categories of things in the universe.
Things that are God's will that they exist.
Yep.
And things that those things need to exist.
Exactly. So, for example, it would be pretty absurd to say that, like, God created the human heart for its own sake. It's pretty clear that the human heart exists for the sake of the human body. Right? But he's saying the humans exist for their own sake. And let's say if you look at the planets or the angels or the animals, that some of those things exist for their own sake and some of those things exist because they're necessary for something else. But the main answer he's rejecting here is that he's rejecting the notion. Again, we're going back to the purpose of the universe. So what answer to that question is he rejecting?
We're the purpose of the universe?
Yeah, that we are the purpose of the universe. He's saying that is not the case, that we are the purpose of the universe, and that's actually how he interprets Bereshis. That's why it says God created light and light is good. Well, if it was if the purpose of light was for man, so what would be the problem with saying that light is good?
It's only good for man.
And therefore,
It's not God's will.
Man wasn't created.
Man wasn't created yet, right? So the fact that at every step of creation, God creates it and says it's good must mean that it is good right now. And in fact, there's a proof from that, because what day of creation does it not say is good? I don't know if you remember this from when you did in the beginning of the year.
Man.
It's funny. It's machlokas whether the Tov Ma'od at the end of day 6 refers back to man, or if he omits saying it there. But there's one.
Sarcastic. Like, man's really good.
yeah.
Stars?
Nope. You're kind of close though, but not. It wasn't the stars. Nope. So I'll show you. Hold on. Do you have an elementary school song about this?
Yeah, like we had a Chumash play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the son.
I can see that.
I have the video on my phone. I'll show you guys later.
Day 2. Vayas Elokim es harakia. Sorry. Oh yeah, here we go. So he sees that the light is good. And he separates between them, and day 1. Okay. Day 2. V'yomer Elokim yihi rakia b'soch hamayim v'hi mavdil mayim l'mayim. Do you guys know what rakia is?
Horizon?
Yeah, horizon. You could say that. What was that?
The floor.
It's not the floor.
The heavens.
Yeah, it's the heavens, but it's like the dome of the heaven, or like the firmament is the like the sky. Okay, is like the word we use. So he made the rakia and separated between the waters that are beneath the heaven, beneath the rakia, and the waters that are above. And it was so. Vayikra Elokim la rakia shamayim, and he called the rakia shamayim. Vayi erev vayiboker yom sheni. And it was evening and morning one day. So it doesn't say kitov. Okay, but then on the next day, what happens? So let the waters gather from under the heavens into one place, and then the dry earth will be seen. And he called the dry land earth, and the gathering of waters he called seas, like seas. And he saw it was good. So he creates all the what do you call it, the plants, and then it says V'yarlakim kitov. So day 3 gets 2 kitovs. All right. So there's a famous Rashi on that. Rashi says, I think he says it here, or maybe he said it earlier. Yeah, here we go. He says, Mipnei malo nemar kitov b'sheni. Why didn't it say kitov in the second day? Because the work of the water was not completed until day 3. But he started on day 2. Something that's not complete, you cannot say it's good. So
It must be that good is in itself.
it must be that good is in itself. In other words, you can't say, in other words, if someone tried to argue when God said that the light is good, it's good because of man, you can't say that because man wasn't created yet. And just like he didn't call the rakia good until it was complete, so too he can't say that the light is good because of man if man doesn't exist yet. So therefore, when he says it was good at every step of the way, he must mean it's good for itself. It's good for itself. It's good for itself.
Or it's good for whatever his will is, not for itself.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good for whatever his will is, but I mean, it's not good for something else.
Is that also implying man's not complete?
So that's my theory as to why you mean because it doesn't say that man is good.
Yeah.
That's my theory as to why it doesn't say that man is good, because man is the only creation who you cannot point to him and say he is good, because
No such thing
I would-
as-
well, I don't know about that. What were did you have in mind when you said that man isn't complete?
Like man, I don't know. It's just different than animals because man isn't always following God's will.
Yeah, I think that's because man has free will. You can't say man is good. Man can choose to be good, but you can't point him and say he is good. Yeah.
So this is the reason why when we say there are two types, the type A is including things other than man.
Yeah. Yeah. That when we say that the plants kitov, that's because God wants there to be plants because He wills it. Not that plants exist for man.
So it's not a philosophical proof; it's a proof from the psukim.
It's proof from the Psukim. Yeah.
There's no other proof.
I don't know. But we haven't finished it yet because there's clearly more in the Rambam, so we'll have to continue that tomorrow. Okay. You're welcome. See ya.
Yeah.